You ever have one of those neighbors who looks like they were born holding a clipboard? That's Karen, our neighborhood's self-appointed monarch, official HOA president, and self-declared defender of community standards. She wore that title like it gave her a license to issue citations. The woman didn't just walk, she patrolled, every morning at precisely 7 a.m., while the rest of us were half awake, sipping coffee, or doom-scrolling through our phones. She was out there examining lawns, like a military commander inspecting her troops. I've lived here for 8 years. My wife and I bought a modest little ranch with a small workshop in the back. Nothing extravagant, just enough space for me to tinker, fix things, and escape from reality for a bit. But to Karen, that place was enemy territory. According to her, my mailbox was 2 inches taller than regulation height, and my trash cans were visible from the street for a whole hour after pickup day. Real high crimes, apparently. Things stayed mildly irritating until the day I found a letter taped to my front door. Not mailed, not tucked politely into the box. Taped like a ransom note. In bold capital letters it screamed, "Notice of lien for unpaid HOA fines." I stared at it for a good minute, waiting for someone to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But no, this thing looked official. It was stamped, signed, even notarized. It claimed I owed $38.20 in non-compliance fees, which was laughable since I'd never received a single fine before. So I stormed over to the HOA office, a glorified shed behind the clubhouse, and found Karen in her natural habitat, sitting behind a desk piled with laminated rulebooks and passive-aggressive flyers. She looked up with that smug grin that could sour fresh milk. "Oh, hello," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I see you got our notice." "Yeah," I said. "About that. I don't owe you a cent, so maybe you can explain why there's a lien with my name on it." Karen leaned back like she was on some talk show, pretending to stay composed. "Well, the HOA board voted to file that lien after multiple warnings." "Multiple warnings?" I laughed. "I never got one." She tilted her head slightly, that condescending move people use when they think you're too clueless to get it. "Maybe you should check your spam folder," she said. "I almost lost it." "My spam folder?" She was treating official legal notices like promotional emails. That's when it clicked. This wasn't incompetence. This was control. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was flexing her little empire of laminated authority. I went home furious. My wife tried to talk me down, but when I pulled up the county property records, my stomach dropped. There it was, an actual lien filed under our address. Filed by Evergreen Estates HOA, signed by Karen L. Dorsey, president. Here's the kicker. Karen thought she was untouchable. What she didn't realize was that I'm just as nosy as she is. So I called the county clerk's office and spoke to a cheerful older lady named Judy. She said she'd pull up the record and check for me. A few minutes later, she came back sounding puzzled. "Sir, the notarization stamp on this document doesn't match any registered notary in our system." I froze. "So it's fake?" "Well," Judy replied carefully, "let's just say it's interesting. Would you mind emailing me a scanned copy?" "Would I mind?" "Absolutely not," I said. "I sent that file faster than Karen could send a violation notice about an overgrown lawn." A few hours later, Judy called back, and her tone told me this was about to get good. "Sir," she said, "I traced the notary seal and signature to another document. Both appear to have originated from the same IP address." "Wait," I said, "what do you mean by same IP?" "Well, our filing system records where every submission comes from," she explained. "This one was filed from the HOA office's computer, specifically from the user account registered under K. Dorsey." For a moment I was speechless. Then I started laughing, the ugly kind of laugh that bursts out when you realize your villain just tripped over their own trap. Karen had forged a legal lien using her own office computer under her own name, and with a notary stamp she must have pulled off Google Images. That's when I knew 2 things. One, Karen was about to discover that falsifying government documents isn't the same as making snarky HOA Facebook posts. And 2, things were about to get very, very entertaining. The next morning, I called to let her know the county clerk was reviewing some inconsistencies. The moment I said it, her face drained of color, faster than a bank account after Christmas shopping. She started sputtering, throwing out lines like, "Oh, it must be a misunderstanding, and we'll get this handled internally." Internally, of course. Meant to let's pretend this never happened, but I wasn't about to let her wriggle free. When someone forges legal documents in your name, that's not a mix-up. That's a declaration of war. The next day, Karen looked less like the HOA queen and more like a nervous substitute teacher caught cheating on a test. She called me 3 times before lunch, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. The first, "Hey, it's Karen, haha, about that lien thing. Some sort of clerical mix-up." 2 hours later, "Hi again. I'm just wondering if you've contacted the county because this could get complicated." And finally, "Okay, listen. If we can just meet privately, I think we can both avoid embarrassment. Both. Lady, you forged the lien. My biggest offense was forgetting to roll my trash can in on time. I didn't bite. I'd already updated Judy, who was gleefully invested in the saga. The county had officially flagged the lien for fraud investigation, and she admitted she hadn't seen HOA drama this juicy in years. Then things got even weirder. I came home to find another letter taped to my door, handwritten this time. It read, "All misunderstandings have been cleared. Please disregard previous notice." K. Dorsey, I swear you couldn't script this. Karen thought she could cancel a legal filing like she was canceling a gym membership. Just scribble a note and tape it up. Naturally, I brought the note straight to Judy. She took one look, snorted into her coffee and said, "Oh, she's really not helping herself." Apparently, tampering with evidence after being notified of an investigation wasn't just dumb, it was incriminating. Meanwhile, the neighborhood rumor mill went into full throttle. The Facebook group was buzzing. Someone posted, "Has anyone else been getting fake fines?" Within hours, half the street chimed in. Turns out I wasn't alone. Karen had been quietly billing people for bogus violations, peeling paint, faded shutters, lawn ornaments, Christmas lights up too long, you name it, and pocketing the payments. By the end of the week, Judy called again, voice practically sparkling. "So we've confirmed the forgery," she said. "And the county investigator would like to speak with Miss Dorsey in person." Oh, I wish you could have seen it. It was like watching karma show up in mirrored sunglasses holding a clipboard. That afternoon, 2 investigators in suits arrived at the HOA office. I was across the street, trimming my hedges, which really meant live streaming to a neighborhood group chat. Karen strutted out all smiles, greeting them like they were donors to her imaginary beautification fund. But the second one of them opened a manila folder and showed her a document. Her face collapsed. Later I heard she tried claiming the HOA computer had been hacked. Yeah, sure, because cybercriminals love breaking into suburban HOA systems to forge property liens for fun. The best part, one of the investigators asked her to log in to verify the filings. She refused, saying she forgot her password. They told her they'd just subpoena the login records. She said her lawyer would call. They asked for the name. She froze because, of course, she didn't have a lawyer. Just a nephew who once took a semester of paralegal studies and printed her business cards. The investigators left carrying her desktop tower in an evidence bag. By the next morning, the HOA Facebook page was silent. No more posts about mailbox paint or lawn lengths, just crickets. That evening, Karen made one last desperate move. She showed up on my porch, plastering on that fake sugary smile and holding a plate of cookies like she was auditioning for Desperate Housewives. "I think we may have gotten off on the wrong foot," she said sweetly. "Oh, really?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Which part was the wrong foot, Karen? The forged lien or the fake notary seal?" She blinked, clearly not expecting me to come out swinging with sarcasm. "There's no need to be dramatic," she sniffed. "These things can be handled quietly." "Karen," I said, "you filed a fake legal document with the county. Quiet isn't an option anymore." Her face turned beet red. She muttered something about me being uncooperative before stomping down the driveway. I could still hear her yelling into her phone halfway down the block, probably calling that wannabe lawyer nephew of hers again. Meanwhile, the neighborhood was rallying in the most entertaining way imaginable. One neighbor hung a banner that read, "Free the HOA records." Another made T-shirts that said, "Karen lead." We complied. Someone even photoshopped her face onto a Monopoly, go to jail card, and pinned it to the community bulletin board. As for me, I just sat on my porch, sipping lemonade, watching the great HOA empire collapse, one forged lien at a time. But the best part was still ahead, because just when Karen thought things couldn't possibly get worse, the county sent her a letter. Not taped to my door this time. Hand-delivered to hers, certified, stamped, and impossible to ignore. You ever see someone so obsessed with being right that they end up digging their own grave with a gold-plated shovel? That was Karen. Even after investigators took her computer, even after the forgery was confirmed, she strutted around the neighborhood like she still ruled it. She even told a few people I was under investigation for filing false claims. Bless her heart. She actually tried to gaslight an entire county. A week later, the letter she'd been dreading finally arrived. I knew because our mailman, who's been here longer than the HOA itself, came by laughing so hard he nearly dropped my mail. "She got one of those big yellow envelopes from the county clerk's office," he wheezed. "Certified. Required signature." She looked like she was signing her own arrest warrant. Turns out she kind of was. By that afternoon, a few neighbors saw her pacing on her porch, clutching the envelope like a live grenade. Rumors spread faster than wildfire through a dry HOA meeting. By dinner, half the block knew. Karen had officially been charged with filing false legal documents and misuse of public records. Real felonies, not slap-on-the-wrist stuff. Judy later told me those charges could carry actual jail time. Of course, Karen tried to spin it. She posted a statement on the HOA Facebook page claiming she was stepping down temporarily to focus on personal matters. Yeah, personal matters being code for impending criminal prosecution. Then came poetic justice. The same HOA board she'd bullied for years turned on her. Sweet old Mrs. Gibbons, the vice president, called an emergency meeting. She stood up, cleared her throat, and said, "I move to permanently remove Ms. Dorsey from her position and order a full audit of HOA finances." The motion passed unanimously. Karen didn't even show. Word was she was sick, probably allergic to consequences. That audit turned out to be our neighborhood's version of opening Pandora's box. Missing funds, bogus administrative fees, fake maintenance invoices, all traced back to Karen's personal account. She'd been treating HOA dues like her private ATM. The numbers were so bad. The board had to report everything to the state HOA regulatory agency. Imagine the irony. The woman who spent years policing mailbox heights was now under state investigation. A few days later, Judy called again, half laughing. "You're not going to believe this," she said. The county prosecutor filed charges. Apparently, Karen's defense is that she didn't understand how the lien system worked. Oh, sure. Because who among us hasn't accidentally forged a notary seal and filed it with the county? Happens every day, right? Then came the cherry on top. The local news picked up the story. Suburban HOA president accused of forgery and fraud. There she was on TV, strutting into the courthouse wearing sunglasses and a scarf, like she was dodging paparazzi. And they even interviewed my buddy Dan, who said, "Honestly, we're just surprised it took this long." She fined me $50 once for leaving my recycling bin out an hour late. The clip went viral. Within hours, there were memes, hashtags, and a TikTok remix of Karen's old catchphrase, "This will be handled internally," set to dramatic orchestra music. Meanwhile, the newly reformed HOA board held a community meeting to rebuild trust. They invited everyone to speak openly. It turned into a comedy roast for the ages. One by one, neighbors shared stories of Karen's petty fines, her fake citations, her 10 p.m. compliance patrols. Years of pent-up frustration poured out. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. All I wanted was a little peace and a spot to park my truck without a threat of legal action, I said. I didn't start this, but I sure as hell finished it. The crowd actually applauded. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt free. A few weeks later, the final verdict came in. Karen took a plea deal. 2 years probation, community service, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board in the state. And her assigned community service? The county records office, the same place where she'd filed that fake lien. You couldn't script a better ending. These days, the neighborhood feels different, peaceful. We have block parties again. Kids ride bikes. No one's out measuring grass length with a ruler. Every now and then, someone brings up Karen for a laugh. Remember when our HOA had a criminal mastermind who couldn't even forge a stamp right? Someone jokes. As for me, I've still got that original lien notice framed in my workshop. Not out of spite, well, maybe a little, but mostly as a reminder that power-hungry people eventually trip over their own lies. And every time I look at it, I remember what Judy told me when this all began. You'd be surprised how many people get caught by their own printer. Karen sure did. So, next time some self-appointed HOA tyrant waves a stack of paperwork in your face, just smile and remember sometimes karma doesn't knock. It sends a certified letter. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. Every click fuels more wild HOA tales. And don't forget the bell icon, so you'll never miss when justice makes another surprise visit. See you in the next one, where karma serves seconds.